I'm Josh Cooperman, and this is Convo by Design. This week, we're heading to New Jersey to speak with Nicole Forina of Nicole Forina Home. Her honest and fully exposed approach to her design business is as unique as her work, and we're talking about both. Well, Convo by Design has changed a lot over the past 10 years. Some things remain the same as the day I started the show. I want to introduce you to amazing creatives in interior, exterior design, and architecture. I love this business, and I love what they do. Nicole Forina Home is a family-run business. Her husband, Mike, with his ME degree, he's a mechanical engineer, worked in civil engineering as well as teaching upper-level high school math, is able to project manage as well as offer a very unique skill set to the design firm. This was a fun chat, and I hope you enjoy it. You'll hear all about Nicole Forina Home right after this. I am incredibly proud of Convo by Design in year 10, and I'm equally proud of my partnership with Thermosol. They've been presenting partners of Convo by Design for 3 years now, and there is a certain amount of pride that comes with saying that the show is presented by the company that is the best in the world at what they do. I generally
Thermosol
like to start
engineers
with
the most exceptional smart shower products and
background
steam shower
and
systems
the origin story
worldwide
because
for a
I'm
few
such a sucker
reasons.
for that. But
They were the first
I actually
company to
wanted
design
ask you
patent
something different
the
first
technology
because,
here in the US dating back to
before I hit
1958.
record, we were
Thermosol,
talking a little
a
bit
US
about
brand,
events.
a
So we're
US
recording this
manufacturer in Round Rock, Texas,
April
employs an engineering team
23.
that
This will
designs,
probably air
tests, and
sometime
continuously
around,
refines
I don't know,
the product.
September
Their quality
or so,
control
August,
team
September.
tests every single
And
steam
I'm curious,
generator before
to
it
date,
departs
we were
the
talking
factory.
about design
Who else
events,
does
and
that?
I'm curious.
Nobody. I have
It's
had
so
the pleasure
important,
of working
right?
with some
We were talking about,
world-class designers and
like,
architects who tell me,
Legends is coming up
and you
in
probably
LA
know
and-
this, that the
and,
idea of luxury
so
has
many other
changed
things.
and
I'm heading
continues
out
to
there for a week.
change,
We're doing a
especially
10th
when
anniversary
clients
party
want
at Soho
a spa-like
Home.
bathroom.
And
steam is mandatory. Or
this
it's
idea
just not
of
considered a
events,
luxury space.
design
And if you want to
events,
add steam,
the
you
need
have
to
one
get
true
out
option.
again and
It's
to
Thermosol.
see what's
And now
available and to see
Thermosol,
what-
the
what
industry
people
leader in
have
steam,
produced and
bath
what they're
equipment, and
producing.
technology since
Now that supply chain
1958, is
kind of
enhancing
evening
their
out a little
already
bit
stellar
to
family of
figure
products
out
with new indoor
what's
and
new,
outdoor
what's
luxury
now,
saunas.
what's next.
Available in
How
3
do
design
you manage
configurations.
that, and
Each
how have
sauna
you
is
managed that
handcrafted from
as
clear
busy
Western red
as we all are
cedar
these
or Nordic
days?
spruce. Inspired by the brilliance
I
of
honestly
Northern
think I
European sauna
haven't
technology and
managed it
design.
well
A
enough.
luxury bathroom isn't luxury
Being
without
that
steam.
I
If you
have
want
a
luxury, you have
3-year-old,
one option.
I think I'm
It's
still
Thermosol.
actually
Check
kind
them
of
out
stuck
at
in COVID
thermosol.com
world a
and
little
at
bit. Like,
Thermosol on the
I
socials.
it's weird getting away from her and being away from her for long periods of time. We haven't done that yet. And I really have thought to myself, okay, it's time to cut the ties. Like, she can be away from me for a little bit. So I need to go get back into that. It's so inspiring to go to these events and see all the showrooms and see what everybody's doing and just meet up with fellow designers too, and just kind of talk to them about, what are you going through, and catch up. So yeah, I, to no fault of my own, have been not present at some of these trade events. And I have said to myself, I got to get back out there. So
that being said, how are you navigating sampling, specifying new tech, new ideas, new things that are, look, I was at KBIS. Did you go to KBIS this year? Were you there?
I didn't know.
Okay. I was stunned by A, how many people were there.
Yeah.
And B, the sheer amount of product and new material that has come on the market. How do you stay on top of that?
So actually, since my background, which I know we'll get into origin story, but I worked for a trade showroom, Schwartz Design Showroom, shout out to Schwartz, for 10 years. And when I first got into this industry, I was all about product. I needed to learn about every vendor. When I got into it, there wasn't Pinterest, Instagram wasn't around. I was clipping out magazines and looking at product. So my general knowledge of product is really good. And I like to kind of keep tabs and have a Pinterest, and with swatches and everything. I have a home office. So my library isn't like huge fabric books and flags of fabrics. I try to kind of grade in fabrics from the upholstery companies that I work with, and then pull fun, funky fabrics and keep those in my library. So I'm not like overwhelmed by fabric, and I'm inspired by those things, not like your average neutral or solid fabric. And recently, which may have been a COVID thing, was they've been doing these small fabric events nearby. So I'm based in New Jersey. I'm in central Monmouth County, but there's been a down the shore fabric event where they have like these country clubs where they set up tables. There's a Pierre Frey, and there's a Perennials, and there's a Philip Jeffries. So you get to see all the new introductions and get your samples there, and, chat with people and everything. And that's been awesome, because to not have to go to the city to source things, which can be super overwhelming as it is, because if you're looking for something specific, you're like, hello, here's 40 stories of a building that you can go through. So that's kind of how I've kept on top of my fabric sourcing. In terms of product, I do need to get out there a little bit more probably, but I'm on Instagram. Like, as all designers, we're like on Instagram, we're seeing so much and being inspired so much. And my way of just taking it all in is filing it away into like a Pinterest board or something that I can go back to later on. So
it's really interesting, isn't it? The business of design. And it's funny because I've gotten away from doing the business of design. And I think the reason why is, it's kind of funny. So 10 years ago, when I started the podcast, I was kind of the only one, I was the only one really doing this. And so I was like, oh, I'll talk about this week. I'll talk about that next week. And over time, more podcasts started coming on, and now everyone is just doing the business of design. Everyone's talking about the business of design. And it's kind of like, I feel like there's just too much noise out there. Like, I'm doing it this way and I'm doing it that way. And here's how you get more clients. And here's how you bill. And here's how.
Right.
It's like, enough already. If you really want to know those things, go to a business school, because that's what you'll learn. Get your MBA,
right.
and you will learn how to do that. But I think what's really been missing, at least for me, what's been rewarding in talking to amazing creatives like you, is to find out how you're navigating the business. I mean, right now it feels like, and it's not just design, right? It feels like everyone's drinking from a fire hose. Like we're just so busy.
Yeah.
And it's not the busy of doing the work. It's the busy of getting all the other stuff done so that you can do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, there is so much new product. There is so much new technology. There is so much happening right now. I'm just curious, how are you drinking from the fire hose? How are you managing all the things that you need to do so that you can get new clients, specify what's out there, learn about new product, get the work done, do your reveals, and still find time to have that work-life balance? Because that's the thing that I think is being lost right now. How are you navigating that?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm not. That's the thing. I'm not, before a 3-year-old, Mike said to me the other day, my husband, he was like, so are we working harder? And I was like, no, we are working just as much as we did before, but now we have a kid and all that time is dedicated to her on the weekends and at nights. And so, it doesn't feel like we're getting time for ourselves to have that work-life balance. We have to be better about that, but that's another topic. My husband joined me about 2 years ago now in the business, and he's been the yin to my yang completely. He does everything that I dislike doing, and he's wonderful and awesome at it. He has an engineering background and he's a teaching background, and he's elevated our business like 3 times. Now we're just trying to figure out, okay, we figured out us. How do we go from here? And I think also just figuring out like, what does success mean to us, and what does growth mean to us, and how far do we want to take it? And just kind of our next step is to hire somebody else. Like right now, it's just the 2 of us, and we're just managing doing everything on our own and creating our process that works for us. And so I think that would be the next step. Honestly, we're just taking it day by day and managing as many projects as we can and kind of foreseeing the future and just being, being like, okay, when can we take on a couple new projects? It's not easy. Like the phases of the design process are always like at different areas. And it's really hard to kind of quantify how much time everything's going to take to be like, oh, this will take X amount of time. I mean, you can guesstimate, but at the end of the day, you really got to tell people like, let's, new possible clients, you got to be like, this could be anywhere from September to November that we can take you, so we're navigating like everyone else. I haven't totally figured it out yet. I've been doing this for a long time and I'm still learning so much. I mean, that's the thing about this industry. I mean, like you said, new technology, new product, there is constantly stuff to learn and take on. And it's very humbling.
Well,
really
and it's interesting too, because I've had this conversation a lot, and we can put a pin in this and come back to it. But here's why I bring it up. I'm starting to bring it up more and more because the conversations I've been having lately are, and here's why I think it's interesting, because, doing the podcast for 10 years now, I'm talking about different things. Obviously, I'm talking about different things than I was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 12 months ago, 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the nature of the business is changing so rapidly. And right now we're on the precipice of something really interesting. And I wanted to kind of ask you about this dynamic between you and Mike. So I find this fascinating because for the last, back in October, November, I started working with ChatGPT a little bit, just messing around with it. And it's so fascinating to me how that's going to change the nature of the business that I started taking a course through MIT on no-code AI and machine learning. So I'm in the middle of that right now. And I'm kind of, you talk about drinking from a fire hose. I'm not a math person, and Mike could probably relate to this.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm learning. AI, machine learning, big data is going to totally change the nature of the design industry in so many ways. And having Mike, he's an engineer, what does that do for the business side? And how does that alleviate the pressure for you as a creative?
Well, he has an engineering background in that he was in it for very little before he took an alternate route and became a teacher. So he just did high school math, calculus, all of that. But that technical side of him means as soon as he came on board, he learned SketchUp in 24 hours, like literally 3D. I think we had done a drawing one time to see if a chandelier and a 4-poster bed were going to touch each other. And I think our client said, wow, he watched a video of it and he was like, that was like docking a spaceship. That was technical. So he like came on and did that, where I went to school, I learned CAD. I also learned Revit. It was confusing because I was learning 2 programs at one time. SketchUp wasn't even around at that point, I don't think, or maybe it just had started coming around. I completely lost my ability to do any of that. So I was doing hand drawings or having other people do the drawings. I had a partner at the time that was doing them. So I lost all of my technical skills to do any of the drawings aside from hand drafting. So when he came in and took over that, I didn't have to pay anybody anymore. And he was able to do that. And his dad was actually a shop teacher in Newark, New Jersey, in high school, Newark High School for 40 years. So he also like has the drafting and stuff. So he learned that and loved that. He loves that part of the business. And so he really helps. And he's been amazing working with contractors and everything and project managing. They love him. I mean, we have had multiple contractors who were like, no doubt we are going to refer you guys are so organized. And everything is on Dropbox and all the technical documents, and it's so organized and they don't have to call us for anything. So it's been great. Yeah. Love having him.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I'm not going to dwell on this, but it is a little unfortunate that contractors and female designers, even women architects that I've spoken to, have some issues. I think it's changing. It's just not changing fast enough.
I agree. I was going to touch upon that too. Like they just have a comfortability with him, I guess, being a man maybe. And they sometimes the questions I could easily field and he may not even know, and they just automatically go to him. But they see us as a team and he's really project managing. So, it's been really, really great. But yeah, I definitely.
Yeah. But it's just unfortunate because those women designers without a mic,
Yeah.
My suggestion would be, that it feels like construction is one of those few industries that has still sort of tolerated that idea, the gender gap and the gender bias. I think as smart as designers are these days, there's a difference between a designer and a decorator, but even decorators, and I don't mean that in a de minimis way at all.
Right.
Just that, to be a designer, you have a piece of paper, you've gone and you've gotten a certification. With a decorator, you don't necessarily have that, but there is such an education to knowing what specifications are for things that you're ordering or putting in a dwelling, that it's in everyone's best interest to kind of work well in the sandbox. And I think we're getting there. We're just not getting there fast enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Why the fashion merchandising background?
I think that there was just naive, like being young in high school. I went to like a very academic high school, and my parents pushed me towards that, where I kind of felt like I wanted to nurture my creative side. Like I was senior year, I could take an elective in pottery, and they were like, no, you can't do that. You have to take creative writing. And so I feel like maybe it was, I don't want to blame my parents, but I feel like they kind of dampened that side of me a little bit. And I was always interested in interior design. A friend of mine growing up had these blueprint magazines. Do you remember those? Like the house plan magazines that you could pick up?
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved them. I asked them, can I have these? I would make my own blueprints and stuff. Like middle school. And I went into high school and I was like, oh, I'm not good at math, so I guess I can't really be an architect or anything like that. I don't know. And I thought, well, what can I be creative in? And I went to school at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in Manhattan, for fashion merchandising. I loved it, but I think it was my second year in, I took a class called Home Products, and they sent us to ABC Carpet and Home. And I was like, what am I doing? I need to be in the home product interior design world somehow. I was terrified to switch gears at the time. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I ended up finishing my degree in fashion. And then everybody in my family was like, well, what are you doing now? Because I wouldn't get a job in fashion. So it was like waitressing and doing all of that. And my aunt was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I felt like so weird, like I was coming out of the closet or something. I was like a closeted designer. I was like, I think I want to be an interior designer. And she was like, oh, I have a friend who's working with one right now. So I ended up, through my aunt, one of her best friends was having a big salon in her house done. Like she had a 3-car garage and was doing an addition where she could have a salon and like take clients at her house. And she was working with this guy, Matt Root. His business name is M. Frederick. At the time, I think it was Houndstooth Home. Yeah. And so I ended up working for him briefly. And then I went back to school at Kane, and that kind of fueled it up. So fashion, it was just a means to an end, I guess. It was a second love, I guess.
Well, here's what I think is so interesting about sort of your path. You've got this degree in fashion merchandising, which teaches you this. It's the showbiz side of
It's
fashion.
really
It
more
really
business
is.
than anybody could really
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. And then you get your degree in interior design, and then you go and work at the showroom, which is really, I mean, look, let's be honest, the showroom is where the rubber meets the road. That's where it all happens in reality. Putting those three things together, how has that informed you as it relates to the firm? And did that help you define, and I say this very carefully and purposefully.
Mhm.
I learned early on doing this show, because I would ask this question that was, it's not a stupid question. I've said this before, but it's just a pedestrian question. Like I would ask designers, what's your style? And I think I think it's a good question. I don't think it's relevant when asking about how you do work for others. Like if we're talking about your home, and I have a feeling as we go through some projects, we might be, but
Yeah.
it's not about your home per se. It's
Yeah.
about how you channel your gifts, your skill to get out of your clients what they're looking for. But I think that there's a through line, and I think that there are some consistencies in the work. Do you know what those are? And do you know sort of how your path and your style informs what you do for your clients?
Oh, okay. So the question really is, what is my personal aesthetic?
No. It's
Okay.
what are the through lines? Like, what are some of the things,
Thread.
like, yeah, like
Thread.
I find it really interesting. Some designers really focus on the technical aspect of it, and they put smart everywhere. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really interesting. I think that that's choice, because it's not everyone necessarily asks for it, because many clients don't even know or aren't aware of what's available to them when it comes to tech. Others have certain things, like when it comes to kitchens, it's like, I'm not doing one kitchen. I'm doing a kitchen. I'm going to shoehorn a scullery over here. I'm going to put a butler's pantry over here. I'm going to do the outdoor kitchen over here. And I'm going to make it so that the kitchen triangle is like a thing of the past. Now it's a kitchen rectangle with a triangle and a square. Yeah. And what are some of the things that have driven you to inform and define your work?
Okay. Well,
see, now we're getting to the hard questions.
Yeah.
Now this is like the equivalent to the math part of the conversation.
I mean, it's almost so obvious that I don't even think it's hard. Like, I guess color is the one thing that drives me in every project. Like, if I don't have a color scheme or a thought on color from the beginning, I almost seem lost, like that. And then, additionally, material. I look at every room in terms of like color and material and like how those things are relating to each other. I love the juxtaposition of two things that are like very different from each other. And I would just say product, like interesting, cool product, and just balancing those three items is what I look at to kind of create a cohesive design and a thread through the client's home, or even through all of my projects. I wish it was more interesting than that, but it's not. It's really pretty simple, I think. Does that answer the question? I don't even know.
Yeah, no, it does.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I think, okay, in years of doing this, I found a couple of things, like in working with designers, many clients don't know the questions that they should be asking of their interior designer, which leads, like the architects, they get around to the real important questions. Like, hey, I should probably put a header or a beam or something here so that this structure doesn't fall down. Okay, right. Well, if that beam or header is there, that will block a view, that will make something else non-functional, or now we have to move it, right? But when it comes to design, many clients don't really ask the questions that get to the heart of what's really important in the aesthetic and in the feel. And I think that right now design is at a forefront. I feel like design is a genuine art form. And as such, because it's an art form, there isn't necessarily one right way to do this. So you could do it a bunch of different ways. You're trying to get to a feel. You're trying to get to an emotion. You're trying to get to...
Absolutely, 100%.
And so because of that, I think it's important for designers to understand where their superpowers lie. Yeah. And I think many, if not all of the great ones definitely do. And I think you have a firm grasp of that. So what I kind of like to do next is this exploration into some of your projects.
Okay.
And I love doing this. And I always I preface it the same way. Yes, fully aware this is a podcast.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, I encourage you to, when you have a chance to stop down, if you're listening while you're driving, don't do this. Maybe you do this later, but
don't condone this.
Yeah. Yeah. But when you're at home and you got a couple of minutes and you want to listen, timestamp this, go to the show notes, and you will find a link to Nicole Forina Home. And we're under the projects tab or under portfolio. The first one I wanted to ask you about, because to your definition, the Color Me Happy project seems to speak to exactly what you were talking about. And that first image in the bedroom, it just kind of defines a feel.
Yeah.
As much as it does a look.
Yeah.
For whom did you design this? Did you have specific instructions? Did you have a direction? Or did you have a feel? What was the instruction for this project?
So this project started off, it was a master bedroom renovation where we got a solo architect involved. Her name was Jung Lee Masters. Amazing. And also the downstairs. So underneath where the master bedroom was, the downstairs, like we called it, like kind of family sitting room space. There was like a double room with like a fireplace and a piano, and then kind of a family gathering area. What started this was just knowing the family, like we said, feeling and emotion drives this so much. And basically they have a family business. It's like a distribution of nuts. And they're traveling all over the globe to different places. And they had a very like eclectic, exotic kind of feeling. And then the wife was very like bohemian, the way she dressed, like the epitome of anthropology. So we knew that they liked eclectic, kind of almost globally inspired and colorful. And so we did a really interesting, with this job, the bedroom kind of stayed as is, but the bathroom and closet that was existing turned into one giant bathroom. And then we basically took the 2-story sitting room, brought the ceiling down to a very nice, like 9-foot high ceiling. That's that teal room that you see. And above became the giant master closet that we did. So I think you can kind of see in the materials, like the chandelier in the bedroom, that's made of like macrame, and some of the pattern and the color, that it's definitely like a bohemian, globally inspired place that really reflects the clients. Even they're like the Moroccan style medicine cabinets that we had, but then it's like mixed with a cool modern bistro sconce. So kind of the juxtaposition is always there. The juxtaposition of the globally Moroccan medicine cabinet with the really cool modern kind of vintage inspired sconce. That's always there, I think, in the design, is the juxtaposition. That is something that fuels me. Like the whole rustic modern, or like I'm obsessed with this one wallpaper for my own dining room that's burlap background with like shimmering glittery stuff on top. Like the juxtaposition of the two is like the coolest thing to me. So
you are listening to my conversation with Nicole Forina of Nicole Forina Home. We'll be right back.
We are living at a time of incredible growth, both technologically and creatively, with respect to interior design, exterior design, and architecture. There is no question. There are companies thinking differently about the business of design and how to make products super serve those for whom they're being made. One of those companies, and one of my favorites, is Moya Living. Designer and fabricators of some of the most stunningly beautiful, incredibly durable, and highly functional kitchen, bath, and outdoor kitchen cabinetry on the market today. Powder-coated steel with stunning lines, vibrant colors to fit any design style or aesthetic. A history of designing cabinetry for the scientific community, so you know it's been tested in some of the truly the most harsh conditions available. Moya O'Neill is the CEO and founder of Moya Living. She's the inspiration behind the design. Designers, their specification process is so simple. It will make your job so much easier. Check them out online through the socials at Moya Living, their website, moyaliving.com, and in the real world, their live kitchen showroom in Fountain Valley, California.
Here's what else I glean from your presentation. And by the way, I don't want to overlook this. I actually want to focus on this for a minute.
Yeah.
Does your fashion merchandising background affect or influence the manner in which you style for your shoot?
I don't think so, actually. I don't think so. I think where I learned merchandising from was really working at Schwartz. And it was a playground for me, as you can imagine. So Schwartz at the time when I worked there was about 5,000, 6,000 square feet of just open showroom space where you had over 200 different vendors. You have to appeal to every designer. So every style, every price point. And it was me going around and I don't know, somehow having the confidence and the desire and interest to move things around to be like, oh, that looks cool with that. And eventually at the time, Alexis's mom, Suzette, was still the president. And she would come in and be like, who did that? Like with this like weird judgy face. And then she'd be like, I like it. I like it. Or no, her token phrase was, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And eventually it just turned into like, oh, well, Nicole did it, or so-and-so did it. And, eventually it became into like Fridays was the day I'd move stuff around with Edwin, the warehouse manager. And it really became, I got faster at it. I got better at it. It was the ultimate playground. I honestly think that like that experience was invaluable. And that is what I think drives me to kind of style a space in a way. I love the accessory part of it. I love the flowers. Like I could, even like looking at magazines, I was always like, ooh, look at that layout and how they like food styling or anything like that is so intriguing to me. And I kind of pull ideas from that a lot of times and pull it into my photo shoots. And, oh, how am I going to bring this together? And like, what kind of tabletop game am I going to use? An acrylic Jenga? And like, will there be whiskey next to it? And like, that to me is, I don't know why, but it's so exciting. It tells a story. And I love that part.
That is exactly where I was going with this, because as I'm looking through this project, and I encourage everyone who's listening to go look at this too. So styling for a photo shoot is one of those art forms that I would compare to accessorizing.
Mm-hmm.
I think accessorizing is a definite art form. There is just such a fine line between balance, structure, and throwing in the kitchen sink. And as an example, I will use that game table with the acrylic Jenga and the whiskey, as well as above that with the bar. So I am seeing way more home bars. And I think that the home bar is a manifestation in a post-pandemic world. I think that the home bar really, I don't know. I kind of feel like prior to the pandemic, the idea of a home bar was like your alcohol needs to be stored and hidden away. It's just not, I don't know if it's not proper.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for some reason, post-COVID, I am seeing so many home bars, and I think it's wonderful. And I think that the way that they're being styled and presented is it's a new way of presenting personality. And this home bar, here's what I love about it. I don't see in the home bar that you styled, I think maybe there's one vodka bottle that is unopened. Everything else has been styled for use.
Yeah.
The game, it's a game, I think, but Drunk, Stoned, or Stupid is in the bar. It's, you've got the cutting board with the limes. You're showcasing how this space is being designed to live in. You're telling a story with it. And it's a fearless approach to styling a space in a way that's not necessarily made for glossy pages of the magazine, to show what an untouched space looks like, but how people actually live in it.
Yep.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was a very interesting project because we had to take certain things that were very sentimental to the clients that they had from their aunts or grandparents or parents. And one of those was that bar. It was basically just like a secretary hutch before. And we were like, how can we make this more useful? And being that we were making this kind of like the sitting room game night kind of space where, they would have people over and you could pour yourself a drink right there. We ended up taking our cabinet maker ended up coming in and kind of transforming it and refinishing it and putting a metal top on that piece that folds out, like the secretary piece that folds out for like a desk, to make it more functional for drinks and stuff, spills and whatnot. So that was really fun and challenging, but like in a good way. So it was
next project I want to jump over to
go ahead.
is Go Bold and Go Home. And I want to preface this by saying I'm not just looking for home bars, by the way. I'm really not. I'm not. But one of the things that I love so much about this project, couple of things that you had mentioned that I think absolutely scream. Color, a willingness to be so incredibly brave in some of the design choices, and we'll get into this in a minute. But it's also as you showcase this home and this project, how it's meant to be lived in, or rather not meant to, because that's personal, but how it was designed to be lived in, I think is really important. And that's where it comes to the storytelling. I have such a passion and love for set decorators, because I think what they do is they're designing a space, not for a client, but for words on a page.
Yep.
And it's up to them to interpret what's between the lines.
Right.
What the emotion,
right,
the feel, what that space smells like, what it feels like when you walk into it, what it does for all of your senses.
Yeah.
And, you lead, this Larchmont, New York home with it is bold. It is a brave skill set, a set of choices. Here's what's interesting too. This is not demographically specific. This is a family. I mean, you tell me about the client or who this was designed for, but this is a family.
Yeah. It's a family of 5, 3 kids. They are, been working with them for a while, and they actually moved from Westfield to Larchmont. So did part of their house in Westfield, moved to Larchmont. Again, design challenge. It's not working on a new build or working from scratch. And this is where the merchandising background comes from. I honestly think is is taking those things from a previous home that worked in that home perfectly and that was meant for that home and repurposing them for the new space. That was part of the challenge. And I'm off on a tangent. I don't remember your question or where.
No, it's about for whom this whom the space was designed. And here's what's interesting too. So there is a hallway in, I'm going to assume that this is the master bedroom, between the master bedroom and the master bath. Yes. There is a hallway. First of all, that wallpaper is fantastic. But second, you put a desk in here where look, again, pre-pandemic, that may not be a desk. That might be a dressing area or a sitting room or something non-utilitarian or something non-specific, to sort of as an interstitial between one space and another. But instead, this has a very, very specific purpose now because need specified it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be honest with you. It was there.
Really?
Yes. I mean, this was a brand new Larchmont build, like a spec house, right? That we basically was, I don't know, I want to say 9,000, 10,000 square feet house.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so what you're seeing is me just enhancing its beauty. It was just a blah gray desk with blah gray walls before we got to it, basically.
What year was this project built? Do you know?
It was during COVID. So I want to say like,
oh, it was. Okay.
It was built pre-COVID. And I think it was on the market for a while before the clients ended up buying it. But it was, a very blank slate. And that desk chair came from their old master bedroom and the fabric on the shade there was actually used in their old family room. So we took some things, they had just spent, I don't even know, like thousands and thousands of dollars on beautiful Osborne and Little linen ombre draperies. I think I repurposed them in like 4 different rooms. I don't even know. I was like trying to make that work. And one of them was the playroom downstairs. And then we turned that into like the kids area was like a woodland creature theme. And that's right off of the media room, which was very important in the COVID days, of course. But everything you can see there was like new and fresh and clean and white and just re-envisioning. For them. So
the last 4 images here are the kids' bedrooms. And yes. How much fun did you have selecting wallpaper for these rooms?
Love wallpaper, love kids' rooms. I think if there was like a niche that I had to go into, it would be designing for kids because there's no rules and it's super fun. And there's always color. I love designing them. There's like sophistication for their growth as they age, but then there's always like the quirky, whimsical, colorful stuff that you add in for their youthful, playful side. Right. So there's that balance of like making it really chic in a way, but also really approachable and fun for them. Yeah, I love that. I love those rooms, especially the skeleton whales. I love those.
I love those.
Yeah.
Now, there are some who would say who have a fear of wallpaper.
Yeah.
And it's an honest feeling, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
But wallpaper's having a moment, and you must love that.
Oh my God. I'm all about it. And you know what? I'm not seeing it. I think even one of our most conservative clients right now, who's a friend of mine. So she doesn't actually share my aesthetic with color. She's definitely more neutral. She's putting wallpaper everywhere. Living room, dining room, master bedroom, hallway, kids' rooms, like powder room. So she's, even though she's afraid of color, she's still loving wallpaper and using it everywhere. It makes a room it takes it from here to here. It just takes it up a notch. It really does. And there's ways of doing it, where you can get a really cool texture or paper and not totally committing to a price point necessarily. And then there's price points that are crazy too.
There are price points that are crazy.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's interesting. They exist because there are clients that are willing to pay it, that fits what they want.
Yep.
Curious, what are you being asked for these days that maybe you weren't being asked for in design a few years ago?
Well, I think everything that I stand for and that I push for in my designs, the color, the texture, the pattern, I don't think I was being asked for that. I honestly think that I was pushing, not, that sounds bad. I was selling it to people in the beginning because it was always like doing it a little bit at a time and kind of being like, I know that this is a risk for you, but I promise you in the end, when you see it, it's going to be your most favorite thing in the entire space. So now I think people are actually coming to us for that and are not afraid of that. And I kind of think that, sorry, all the people who are doing the very whitewash walls, the wood everywhere, the vintage, like the black, like, I don't know. You can actually see that in a post that I just did today. That look, I think, is dying down a little bit. I think people want more color and more richness, and they're not afraid of it as much. I mean, look at kitchens now. I almost think the white kitchen is dying. Stone, marble materials. People are like, remember when Calicut gold is still like the hottest and most expensive thing in the world, but people don't want that anymore. They want the cool, veiny, colorful stuff. So
it's okay. So it's so much to unpack there. It's really interesting. I get where you're coming from as far as the white kitchen, but it's funny. I've said this before, and I believe this wholeheartedly. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, almost like color of the year, is the idea that, at the end of the year, you'll always see the magazines do the trends, and you'll see the trends. Here are the top 5 things you need to know about design, the top 10 things that you're going to see in 2023.
Yeah.
And the top 5 things that you're not going to see in 2023. And it's funny because the one thing that I noticed coming into this year was the fact that the white kitchen was on both lists. It was a propensity of the list. Like, the things you're not going to see anymore is the white kitchen. The things that you are going to see this year is the white kitchen. I'm just fascinated by it because, and you do amazing white kitchens. I think that there will always be people who love the white kitchen. And I think that as long as there are people who love the white kitchen will always be part of our design vernacular.
The white kitchen is just, it's being modified ever so slightly. Instead of the fully white kitchen, which is the white countertop, the white backsplash, it's now, okay, we'll have white cabinetry, but we're going to step it up with some cool stone, or we're going to get funky hardware and a backsplash, or we're adding wallpaper, or there's colored light fixtures coming down. Like, taking that classic cabinetry, putting your money into that, which I totally get. That's a lot of money in your kitchen reno, is the cabinetry. And then putting the personality in those other things so that you could change those out later and still have your white cabinetry,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. So I like to play this game.
Yes.
When we're doing this.
Okay.
And it's a game that I play by myself, and I try to figure out if, as I'm going through the portfolio, if the designer's house, their own house, is one of the projects that are featured in the portfolio.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I've seen, so I was trying to figure out, and I have a guess.
Okay.
I have a guess.
Okay.
I think, and I've been wrong, so I mean, I don't have to be always right, but I am going to guess that your house Is the 100-year-old colonial revival revived?
Okay, no.
Ah,
But
okay.
I would say that that is the project that's the closest and most near and dear to my heart. And the one that I was given the most freedom to design on of all of the portfolio.
Really?
Yes.
I had a hunch that the reason I was guessing
Yeah.
is because your picture
Mhm.
on your website, your team picture was in the hanging chair.
Oh yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, the hanging chair is in this project. And based on all the things that you said, I was like, this has to be your home, but it's not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was wrong.
No, it's
Okay.
not. I love that house so much. I mean, that was an interesting project. So that project started August 2019. The clients moved there. They have recently moved out of the house, and the new homeowners just hired us to basically repurchase like a bunch of stuff that was in there, and even do like the same sofa, the same wing chair, but in different fabrics.
So I'm guessing when the previous owners left, they took everything with them. The new owners probably wanted to buy it all as designed, but they
Yes.
wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yes, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did they leave the hanging chair?
No, but
I love that. I love that.
They did reorder them. Their realtor ended up buying them as a gift. So they have those now. And they actually left the living room rug, and lighting, a bunch of the lighting too.
So, and by the way, this particular home speaks to me.
Yeah.
Because I think I mentioned this when we were talking before. I am in Tulsa. I'm from LA, but I'm in Tulsa working on a design house project.
Yes.
And the design house project is a 1936 colonial revival.
Okay.
And as I was looking at this, I was like, oh my gosh, I love what she did there. I wonder, I love that. I love this. We got to figure out how to. So there's a couple of things. There are some through lines in your particular style and your design. And I actually want to start in the foyer and that stairway with the wallpaper.
Yes.
I love that wallpaper.
Yes, I do too. I was obsessed with it. The clients, all the women in the household wanted it. The husband was like, I don't think so. And I was like, no, you have to do it. You have to do it. I wanted it to be like, I think there was a Degournay fish wallpaper that Jeffrey Allen Marks had done, I think, in one of his projects. And I was like trying to evoke that same feeling, like you're going through this like underwater tunnel of these steps. And the console from Made Goods, that gold leaf console that's branchy, that was kind of like an underwatery thing. And just I'm obsessed with it. I wish they took it all the way up to the third floor. They didn't. It's expensive. And I said, let's just evoke that feeling right here when you walk in and make that like such a wow, whimsical moment. I love it so much.
The sunroom.
Yes.
Love that. Love the hanging bench. Tell me about this. What was there before, and how did you ideate this? The floor as well. I mean, everything about this. I just absolutely love this. Are those wood? Is that a painted wood floor?
Yes. Yeah. So I was like, this is it's a screen porch. So I was like, how can we, bump this up? And I there's a reason why people are like, say paint transforms and you could do so much with paint. And I said, I have this amazing faux finisher, Ariana Hoffman, who actually did Alexis's foyer in her house, a painted foyer. And I saw this tile and I was like, well, obviously we can't tile this, but we could stencil the floor, and Ariana could do it. And then I was like, and how are we going to bring some color into the space? And I said, let's do an orange ceiling and bring that kind of thread of the orange through the dining room. So that's the thing that transformed it, is those two things, the orange ceiling and the stenciled floor. I just, Instagram sparks so many ideas. And I think I just saw somebody who did their porch or their outdoor area in a tile that was just like that. And I said, well, let's just do that. I love that. So
I love that too. What I also love, I am an absolute sucker for a banquette. I love properly well-placed banquettes. Now, here's what you did in this one, though. It's really interesting because the molding is so prominent. Did you have this custom made? Was it something that you could have pre-made and just use the molding to modify it? What'd you do?
Again, that was there.
Oh, it was there.
I added the cushions and the pillows, and we did a chair and a fixture, and chairs and a fixture and a table. Yeah. And that was an easy one. This was this house was just very well decorated. Like, I did all the decor, and the one major, I guess you could say, project reno was the fireplace in the living room. That was the biggest project, let's say, but the house was so beautiful. Those stained glass windows with the yellow around, it was such a point of a starting point, and just the fireplaces and all their detail. I love an older home. I wish I could get more of them. I think it's just the type of person you have to be. Like, I love the type of client you have to be to have an older home. You have to be like, oh, well, this piece of hardware is just missing from the window, and that's fine. Like, right?
Yes.
So you're ultimately have to be a more easygoing person because of that. Because you would go nuts. You have to love the imperfections of an older home.
There is a wabi-sabi to an older home. You're 100% right. And you have to find the joy in that. Now, I have one question, because this comes up regularly, and it's a choice. You can go either way. And I'm just curious if there was a conversation, or if it was just like, no, it just didn't belong there. On the stairs, no runner.
It was a conversation. I asked them if they wanted one. They said no. I don't think you need one. I think the spindles and the architecture of the moldings are beautiful enough, and the wallpaper, that you don't need it. It would be a lot because there's 3 stories all the way up. So just a conversation, and that was a no. I wonder what I would have done. I don't think I would have done anything too crazy.
Yeah.
With it. Maybe some, like, a cool binding or some grommet or nail heads or something.
Yeah.
On the binding, but that wallpaper is the star.
Yeah. No, it totally is. Actually, it's not. You're the star, Nicole. Aww. And I love your work. I love your work. And I also love this conversation. I have to tell Alexis that we spoke.
I know. I know. Do you know what number her podcast is? Because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
No,
you'll have to message me later.
Yeah, I'll email you. That's funny. But thank you for doing this. Thank you for the time today. Totally appreciate it. This is great.
Thank you so much.
Design Hardware's newly remodeled showroom is where you will find a gallery-style space with a thoughtful display of products, purposefully positioned to allow unbridled exploration and discovery. High-end faucets, luxury tile, Natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware selections are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find your inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your shopping list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles.
Hey, thanks, Nicole. Loved our chat. Thank you to my partners and sponsors, Thermosol, Moya Living, and Design Hardware, for your continued support of both Convo by Design and the design community. Side note, the sponsors and partners you hear on Convo by Design are more than companies with a product. Each of the partners I work with have been fully vetted, and they are owned and operated by people who love what they do and have dedicated themselves to serving the design community and customers by providing the best products and services available. If you'd like to know why I'm so proud to have them as part of Convo by Design, email me, convobydesign@outlook.com, or on Instagram at convobydesign with an X. I'd be happy to share my experience. Also, please make sure you're sending those show ideas and guest ideas to me via email or Instagram. I love your suggestions. I really do. And many of you have heard your suggestions turn into shows. So thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time to listen to the show and sharing the experience. Until next week, be well and take today first.